What if I told you that a 19th century philosopher who famously declared, "God is dead," could teach you to see through people's masks and understand their deepest motivations better than any modern psychology book? Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't just a philosopher. He was a master psychologist who dissected human nature with surgical precision. He understood something that most people spend their entire lives missing. Everyone is performing, everyone is hiding something, and everyone is driven by forces they don't even recognize in themselves. Today, I'm going to show you 10 ways to read people using Nietzsche's philosophy. By the end of this video, you'll never look at human behavior the same way again. Let's dive in. Method number 1, the will to power test. Decode their true motivations. Nietzsche believed that at the heart of all human behavior is the will to power. Not necessarily power over others, but the fundamental drive to overcome obstacles, assert yourself, and become who you truly are. Here's the thing most people don't understand. The will to power shows up differently in everyone, and it's always disguised. When someone is talking to you, stop listening to their words for a moment and ask yourself, what are they really trying to achieve right now? What are they trying to prove? Let me give you some examples. The person who constantly name drops and mentions where they went to school, they're asserting intellectual power because they feel inadequate. The friend who always plays the victim in every story they tell, they're wielding emotional power through sympathy. It's their way of controlling social situations. The colleague who takes credit for team efforts, that's pure dominance seeking power, the most obvious form. The person who always plays devil's advocate, they're seeking intellectual power through contrarianism. But here's where it gets interesting. Even the quietest person in the room is expressing will to power. The person who says, "I don't care about status," while humble bragging about their minimalist lifestyle, that's still will to power. They're just playing a different game. The key insight: everyone is playing a power game. Once you identify which game they're playing, you understand their core motivations. And once you understand their motivations, they become predictable. Nietzsche would tell you, don't judge the game they're playing, just recognize it for what it is. Method number 2, resentment detection. Spot hidden. Resentment instantly. This is one of Nietzsche's most brilliant psychological discoveries. And once you see it, you'll notice it everywhere. Nietzsche introduced the concept of ressentiment, a deep psychological state where people feel powerless to change their circumstances. So they cope by secretly resenting those who have what they want. These people don't just feel resentment, they build their entire identity around it. Here's how to spot it. Sign number 1, passive-aggressive behavior. Someone says, "I'm totally fine with it," but their tone, their body language, everything screams the opposite. That's resentment leaking out. Sign number 2, moral superiority. They constantly judge others to feel better about themselves. I would never do that. Can you believe people actually? This is how they cope with their own sense of powerlessness, by making everyone else morally inferior. Sign number 3, schadenfreude on steroids. Watch their face when someone successful fails. Do they light up? That's resentment. They couldn't achieve it themselves, so watching others fall becomes their only victory. Sign number 4, the must be nice people. Listen for phrases like, must be nice to have money. Some people have all the luck. Not everyone can afford to. These phrases reveal everything. They're admitting powerlessness while simultaneously judging those who have power. Here's what Nietzsche understood. People consumed by resentment will never help you rise. They're psychologically invested in you staying at their level. The moment you start succeeding, they'll subtly undermine you, not out of malice, but because your success reminds them of their own stagnation. Pro tip: if someone constantly tells you why things won't work, why you should be more realistic, why success is for other people, that's resentment talking. Distance yourself accordingly. Method number 3, the mask theory. See past everyone's persona. Nietzsche wrote, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." Here's what he meant. People don't show you who they are. They show you a carefully constructed version of themselves designed to get what they want from the world. And here's the part nobody tells you. The bigger the mask, the deeper the insecurity. Let me break down the 3 most common masks. Mask number 1, the social chameleon. This is the person who's polite and agreeable in meetings, laughs at everyone's jokes, seems like they don't have a strong opinion about anything. And then you hear them in private and they're completely different. They complain bitterly, they're judgmental, they're cynical. Why the masks? Fear of conflict and desperate need for approval. Mask number 2, the strength mask. This is the alpha personality who dominates conversations. Always needs to be right, can't show weakness. They project absolute confidence. Here's the tell. They can't handle being wrong. Suggest they made a mistake and watch the defensive reaction. The mask cracks instantly. Why? Because underneath is someone deeply insecure who equates any weakness with total worthlessness. Mask number 3, the weakness mask. This is the person who plays helpless to manipulate others. I'm just not good with technology. I could never do what you do. I'm too sensitive for this world. It seems like vulnerability, but it's actually a control mechanism. By playing weak, they get others to do things for them while avoiding responsibility. How to see past any mask. Watch for contradictions. Someone who preaches humility but drops credentials constantly. Someone who claims not to care what others think, but constantly seeks validation. Someone who says, I'm just being honest, but only when it benefits them. Nietzsche would say, judge people by their actions in moments of stress. That's when the mask slips and you see who they really are. Quick test. Put mild pressure on someone's self-image and watch what happens. Their reaction tells you everything about what's behind the mask. Method number 4, master versus slave morality. Identify the 2 types of people. This is Nietzsche's most powerful psychological framework, and it's going to change how you see everyone around you. Nietzsche argued there are 2 fundamental moral orientations. First, slave morality. These people define themselves in opposition to others. Their entire identity is reactive. Listen to how they talk. I'm not like those shallow people. At least I'm not. I would never. Notice the pattern? They don't know who they are, only who they're not. Other signs. Constantly seeking external validation. Living by shoulds. I should be married by now. I should make more money. Their opinions change based on who's in the room. They need permission to do what they want. They're victims of their circumstances. Now, master morality. These people define themselves by their own values. Their identity is creative, not reactive. How they talk. This is what I value. This is my path. I've decided that. Other signs. They take radical responsibility for their life. They create rather than criticize. They're comfortable being different. They don't need your permission or approval. They're the authors of their own life. Here's a real conversation example. Slave morality says, I can't believe she quit her job to travel. That's so irresponsible. What about her career? What about stability? She's going to regret that. Master morality says, that's not my path, but I respect her decision. She's choosing what matters to her. See the difference? One is judging to feel superior. The other is creating their own meaning without needing others to be wrong. Why this matters? Slave morality. People will always try to pull you back to their level. They're psychologically threatened by anyone who breaks the rules they've imprisoned themselves with. Master morality people will inspire you to become more yourself. The brutal truth, most people operate from slave morality. They're not living their life. They're performing the life they think they're supposed to live. How to test this? Ask someone why they made a major life decision. Slave morality answer, because that's what you're supposed to do. Or, because everyone else was doing it. Or, because my parents wanted me to. Master morality answer, because I examined what I value and this aligned with it. One group is following a script, the other is writing their own. Method number 5, the eternal return test. Measure authenticity. Nietzsche posed this thought experiment. What if you had to live your life exactly as it is, over and over, forever? Would you embrace that fate? This is one of the most powerful psychological tools you can use to read people's authenticity. When you're observing someone, ask yourself, would they willingly relive this moment they're in right now? Example number 1, the complainer. You know that person who complains about their job for the 50th time, but does nothing to change it? Would they want to relive this? Number. They're trapped, not choosing. They're lying to themselves about their own agency. Nietzsche would call these people the last men, those who are too comfortable in their suffering to transform. Example number 2, the passionate creator. Now, watch someone discussing their passion project. Their eyes light up. They lean in. Time disappears for them. Would they relive this? Absolutely. They're living authentically. The principle: people who constantly complain but never change are not living. They're just existing. They've given up their will to power and resigned themselves to resentment. People who are energized by their life, even when it's difficult, are choosing their fate. They're authentic. Pro-observation tip: listen to the ratio of complaints to solutions in someone's conversation. High complaints, no solutions equals inauthentic, trapped. Acknowledges challenges, focuses on action equals authentic, free. The eternal return test reveals who's awake and who's sleepwalking through life. Method number 6, the Übermensch identifier. Recognize true versus fake leaders. Nietzsche's Übermensch, often mistranslated as Superman, isn't about dominating others. It's about self-overcoming. It's about constantly growing beyond your current self. Most people think they can spot a leader. They can't. They spot performers. Here's how to identify someone with true Übermensch qualities. Sign number 1. They create their own values. They don't follow the crowd. They've examined what matters and made a conscious choice. Ask them why they do what they do. They'll have a real answer. Sign number 2. They're comfortable with criticism. Fake leaders crumble when questioned. True leaders welcome it. Why? Because they're not attached to being right. They're attached to growth. Sign number 3. They view obstacles as opportunities. Listen to how they talk about setbacks. Do they complain and blame? Or do they say, "Here's what I learned"? Sign number 4. Zero victim mentality. They take full responsibility. Even when something wasn't their fault, they ask, "What could I have done differently?" They know that blame is powerlessness. Sign number 5. Uncomfortable honesty. They'll tell you the truth even when it makes them look bad. They value integrity over image. Now, here are the red flags of fake leaders. Red flag number 1. Need constant validation. They post every achievement. They name drop. They need you to know how important they are. Real power doesn't need announcement. Red flag number 2. Blame others for failures. My team didn't execute. The market conditions weren't right. Always an external excuse, never internal examination. Red flag number 3. Preach one thing, do another. They talk about work-life balance while emailing at 2 a.m. They preach authenticity while curating a fake social media life. Red flag number 4. Can't admit being wrong. Watch what happens when you catch them in a mistake. Do they acknowledge it and move on? Or do they deflect, justify, and get defensive? Real leaders have no ego attachment to always being right. Red flag number 5. Seek power over others, not mastery over themselves. They want to control people rather than inspiring them. They need subordinates, not collaborators. The Übermensch doesn't need followers to feel powerful. They're powerful because they've mastered themselves. Method number 7, the genealogy technique. Trace the origin of their beliefs. Nietzsche taught us to ask, where did this belief come from? Most people have never examined why they believe what they believe. They're running on autopilot, operating from programming they received years ago. Here's how to use this. When someone states a strong opinion, trace it backwards in your mind. For example, someone says, "You should always be humble." Ask why. Because prideful people are bad. Why is that bad? Because society says so. Origin. Adopted belief, not examined. They've never questioned it. Versus someone who says, "I value directness." Why? Because I wasted years in relationships where no one said what they meant, and I refuse to live like that anymore. Origin. Personal experience, examine value. They chose this consciously. People who can't explain why they believe something are repeating programmed thoughts. They're like robots executing code they didn't write. Those who've questioned and chosen their values are authentic. They're awake. Here's the test. Challenge a strongly held belief they have. Not aggressively, just curiously. That's interesting. Why do you think that? Watch what happens. Do they get defensive? That's a programmed belief they're protecting. Do they thoughtfully explain their reasoning? That's an examined value. The people who've never questioned their beliefs are the most dangerous. They'll fight to defend ideas they don't even understand, because their entire identity is built on unexamined assumptions. Nietzsche would say, most people are sleepwalking through life, following maps drawn by others. The rare few who question everything are the only ones truly alive. Method number 8, the herd mentality test. Spot the followers. Nietzsche was obsessed with the concept of herd morality, the tendency of most people to seek safety and conformity rather than risk standing alone. Here's how to spot herd mentality immediately. Test number 1. Watch what they do when their opinion is unpopular. Do they stand by it, or do they suddenly reconsider and align with the group? Test number 2. Notice how often they say we versus I. People with herd mentality hide behind the collective. We think this is the right approach. Who's we? They use the group as a shield to avoid individual responsibility. Test number 3. Observe their opinions in different social contexts. Does this person have completely different views depending on who they're talking to? That's pure herd mentality. They're chameleons, changing colors to match their environment. Test number 4. Ask them about something controversial. Do they immediately try to find the safe middle ground? Well, I think both sides have good points. That's herd thinking. They're terrified of being on the wrong side. Here's what Nietzsche understood. The herd seeks comfort in numbers. They would rather be wrong with everyone than right and alone. These people will never create anything original. They will never lead. They will only follow and criticize those brave enough to step out of line. The question you need to ask, is this person capable of independent thought? Or are they just echoing the loudest voices around them? If it's the latter, understand that they will abandon any position, including supporting you, the moment it becomes socially inconvenient. Method number 9, the suffering interpretation, how they handle pain, reveals everything. Nietzsche said, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." But more importantly, he understood that people's relationship with suffering reveals their fundamental character. Here's how to read someone based on how they handle difficulty. Type number 1, the victim. When something bad happens, they collapse into it. They make their suffering their identity. I'm a trauma survivor. After what I've been through, they wear pain like a badge and use it to manipulate others. Type number 2, the denier. They pretend nothing's wrong. I'm fine, everything's fine. They're terrified of appearing weak, so they suppress everything until it explodes. Type number 3, the transformer. This is rare. When they experience pain, they ask, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to become stronger? They don't deny the suffering, but they refuse to let it define them. Nietzsche would say, only the third type is truly living. The victim has surrendered their will to power. The denier is lying to themselves. The transformer is practicing what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate. They embrace everything life throws at them and transmute it into growth. Watch how someone talks about their past difficulties. Do they speak from a place of victimhood or from a place of strength? The language they use tells you everything about their character. Someone who says, that experience destroyed me, is fundamentally different from someone who says, that experience forged me. One is stuck in the past. The other has integrated it and moved forward. Method number 10, the authenticity check. Who are they when no one's watching? Nietzsche wrote extensively about perspectivism, the idea that there's no absolute truth, only perspectives. But he also understood that someone's truest self emerges when they have nothing to gain and nothing to lose. Here's the ultimate test of character. How does this person behave when they have nothing to gain? When no one will find out? When they have power over someone powerless? Let me give you specific scenarios. Scenario 1. How do they treat service workers? Waiters, cashiers, janitors. If someone is charming to their boss but rude to the waiter, you've seen their true character. When there's no social benefit to being kind, Are they still kind? Scenario 2. How do they behave when they think no one important is watching? Do they cut corners? Do they lie about small things? Small dishonesties reveal big character flaws. Scenario 3. Do they keep their word when it's inconvenient? Anyone can keep a promise when it benefits them. Character is revealed when keeping your word costs you something. Scenario 4. How do they talk about people who aren't in the room? If they gossip viciously about others to you, assume they do the same about you when you're not there. Nietzsche would say, "Everything else is performance. This is the real person." The person who's kind when no one's watching, honest when lying would be easier, and keeps their word when breaking it would benefit them. That's someone with genuine character. Everyone else is just playing a role, waiting for the right moment to drop the mask when it serves them. So here's what you do with all of this. Use these 10 methods not to become cynical, but to become discerning. Nietzsche didn't want you to hate humanity. He wanted you to see it clearly. Understand that everyone is driven by will to power in different forms. Recognize resentment so you can avoid energy vampires. See through the masks people wear. Distinguish between master and slave morality. Test authenticity with the eternal return. Identify real leaders versus performers. Trace the genealogy of beliefs to find who's thinking versus who's programmed. Spot herd mentality to know who will abandon ship when things get hard. Watch how people handle suffering to understand their strength. And always pay attention to who they are when they think no one important is watching. But here's the final lesson, and this is the most important one. Nietzsche's ultimate teaching wasn't just about reading others. It was about knowing yourself. He wrote, "Become who you are." The better you understand your own will to power, your own masks, your own ressentiments, your own herd tendencies, the more clearly you'll see them in others. Because here's the truth. The person hardest to read is always yourself. We lie to ourselves more than we lie to anyone else. We wear masks even when we're alone. We suppress our will to power and convince ourselves we're content. So, use these tools, yes. Protect yourself from manipulators. Surround yourself with authentic people. Distance yourself from the herd. But most importantly, turn these tools inward. Examine yourself with the same ruthless honesty. Are you living authentically or performing a role? Are you driven by examined values or programmed beliefs? Are you creating your own meaning or following someone else's script? When you face suffering, do you collapse, deny, or transform? Would you choose to live your exact life again, eternally? That's the real question. Not whether you can read other people, but whether you can face the truth about yourself. And if you don't like what you see, change it. That's what Nietzsche meant by become who you are. Not discovering some fixed essence, but creating yourself deliberately, consciously, powerfully. Stop sleepwalking. Stop performing. Stop following the herd. Become who you are. Now go forth and, as Nietzsche would say, philosophize with a hammer. Break down the illusions. See clearly. Live authentically. And remember, in a world of masks, the person who dares to be real is revolutionary.